Welcome to Zoe Stories. From boy to girl overnight, what they don't tell you about hormones. I never imagined a single night could completely change the person I thought I was. One moment, I was Alex, a normal guy, slightly awkward but comfortable in my own skin. The next, I barely recognized the reflection staring back at me. My own face felt foreign, every curve and line unfamiliar, yet eerily mine. And in that terrifying, thrilling moment, I realized I had crossed a boundary I could never undo. I've always been fascinated by crossdressing, though I kept it a secret for years. Not because I was ashamed, exactly, but because it felt like a fragile, private experiment, something to explore alone. It wasn't about rebellion, or even purely sexual curiosity. It was about transformation, slipping into a version of myself that felt daring, soft, and alive in ways I didn't fully understand. I had always been careful, choosing the quietest nights when I knew nobody would come home early, exploring textures, colors, and the way a simple dress could change the way I moved and felt. It was thrilling, intoxicating, and terrifying all at once. By day, I was ordinary. I worked at a small tech firm, sitting in front of a computer screen, immersed in spreadsheets and code. My coworkers didn't care about me beyond deadlines, coffee runs, and occasional office gossip. That monotony made the secret world of Alexa, the persona I created in private, feel electric and vital, like a hidden pulse beneath my daily life. I never imagined this curiosity would spiral into something I couldn't control. Diana was my anchor, my brightest light in a predictable life. She was smart, playful, endlessly confident, and terrifyingly perceptive. Our relationship was intense but grounded, full of laughter, teasing, and moments of quiet intimacy that made my chest tighten with both comfort and longing. I adored her, yet the thought of her discovering my secret sent shivers down my spine. I feared judgment, confusion, even disappointment. And yet, a small part of me ached to show her this hidden part of myself, to reveal the side of me that had always been alive in secret. Everything changed the weekend Diana left town for her sister's wedding. I was alone, and the apartment was unnervingly quiet. Silence had a way of amplifying every sound. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock, even my own heartbeat seemed deafening. I had recently received a package in the mail, something I had ordered on a whim, out of curiosity. It was a set of hormone supplements, designed to accelerate feminine traits. The instructions claimed subtle changes over weeks, maybe months. But there was a line that caught my eye: immediate effects if administered properly. I stared at the syringe for what felt like hours, my hands trembling as I read and reread the instructions. Could it really work? Could it really transform me overnight? Part of me wanted to throw it away, to cling to my familiar life as Alex. But the pull of curiosity, the thrill of testing my boundaries, was too strong. I could feel my pulse quicken as I contemplated the unknown, every nerve alive with anticipation. My thoughts flicked to Diana, her playful teasing, the way she always noticed subtle changes in me, her sharp eyes that seemed to see right through masks. Would she be shocked if she saw this new version of me? Would she find it fascinating or frightening? The questions collided with desire and fear, creating a storm in my chest that made my hands tremble more violently. Finally, curiosity won. With a shaky breath, I administered the injection. The effects started almost immediately. First, a tingling warmth spread across my skin, followed by a subtle loosening of my muscles, an odd pliability I hadn't felt before. My facial features began to soften, the hard angles smoothing into gentle curves, my cheekbones lifting, lips fuller, eyes wider. My hair lengthened slightly, falling in soft waves around my face. My chest and hips shifted subtly, creating contours that hadn't existed before. Every sensation was amplified. Light brushing across my skin sent shivers down my spine, and the simple act of breathing felt different, intimate, almost electric. I rushed to the mirror, heart pounding, and froze. The reflection was undeniably feminine. Wide, startled eyes stared back at me, framed by long lashes, with delicate features that mirrored the persona I had crafted in secret. My hands flew over my face and body, feeling the new curves, the smoothness of my skin, the shock of the impossible reality. The adrenaline surged through me, mingling with exhilaration and fear. Panic and fascination collided violently inside me. I felt vulnerable in a way I had never known, yet there was also an intoxicating thrill in this new, softer, more fluid version of myself. The possibilities were overwhelming. I could explore this persona fully, step into it completely, but the fear of discovery loomed large. What if Diana returned early? What if someone saw me like this? Every instinct screamed to hide, yet every nerve craved the thrill of embodiment, the sheer electricity of transformation. I experimented, cautiously at first, then with growing audacity. I dressed in clothes I had only dared wear in secret: soft fabrics, elegant cuts, delicate patterns. I applied makeup with trembling hands, watching as my reflection transformed with each brushstroke, each subtle contour. I adjusted my posture, tested the sway of my hips, and practiced speaking in the softer, melodic tone that Alexa demanded. The mirror reflected someone both familiar and alien, someone I could barely recognize yet felt completely at home inhabiting. By dawn, Alexa wasn't just a persona anymore. She was alive, tangible, and irrevocable. Every nerve ending hummed with new sensations, every movement carried the weight and thrill of my transformation. I collapsed on the bed, trembling with exhaustion and exhilaration, realizing that my life had changed forever. And yet, a shadow of fear lingered. Diana didn't know. Not yet. And when she did, nothing would ever be the same. The morning light crept through the blinds, spilling across my bedroom floor, painting the walls in soft gold. I blinked, still trembling, my body humming with the lingering effects of the injection. Alexa's presence had solidified overnight. Every movement, every breath, every nerve ending pulsed with this new identity. My reflection in the mirror was no longer a mere curiosity. She was alive. I approached the mirror cautiously, hands shaking as I touched my cheeks, my jawline, the smooth curve of my collarbones. The subtle feminine contours made my chest tighten, not in discomfort, but in awe and disbelief. The change was more than skin deep. My posture shifted instinctively, hips swaying slightly as if my body were learning a new rhythm on its own. The voice I heard in my own head was softer, higher, melodic. Alexa wasn't a mask anymore. She was a reality I couldn't ignore. Fear mingled with fascination. I thought about Diana, how she would react if she returned right now. I imagined her walking through the door, eyes widening in shock, curiosity, perhaps even disbelief. I felt exposed, my secret self laid bare in the most vulnerable, electric way possible. My pulse quickened at the thought, my body responding instinctively to the tension and adrenaline coursing through me. Curiosity overcame hesitation. I opened my wardrobe, my fingers brushing over dresses I had secretly admired but never dared to wear. Each fabric, each color seemed to call to me, as if daring me to step fully into Alexa's world. I selected a soft, pink dress, something delicate yet striking. The feel of the fabric against my skin was intoxicating, like liquid silk sliding over every curve, heightening the thrill of my transformation. The mirror reflected my slow evolution as I dressed, every motion deliberate yet instinctive. I applied light makeup, tracing the contours of my face, softening lines, accentuating my eyes. Every stroke amplified the changes already present, deepening the illusion, yet making it impossible to deny the reality of Alexa's existence. My reflection felt alive, watching me with wide, almost expectant eyes, daring me to embrace the persona fully. And yet, alongside the thrill, came a tidal wave of anxiety. I felt exposed, each movement charged with the fear of discovery. What if Diana returned early? What if a neighbor saw me through the window? Every sound, the distant hum of the street, a bird outside, the creak of the floorboards, felt amplified, a warning that the world could collapse around me at any moment. I experimented with my voice, speaking softly, carefully, hearing it carry a delicate lilt I had never known. The simple act of shifting tones felt intimate, thrilling, and terrifying all at once. I practiced walking, testing the sway of my hips, the placement of my feet in the heels I had secretly purchased weeks ago. The sensations were alien and exhilarating, each step teaching my body a rhythm I had never imagined. Internal conflict gnawed at me relentlessly. I loved Alex. He was my core identity, but Alexa's presence had awakened something I could no longer ignore. The thrill of transformation, the subtle power in my new form, and the soft vulnerability it carried created a whirlwind of emotions I could not reconcile. Was this just a temporary experiment, or had the injection unlocked something permanent? The question terrified me. Hours passed in a blur of exploration and self-discovery. I danced in front of the mirror, spun slowly, letting the fabric of my dress float around me, admiring the subtle curves, the fluidity, the way my body responded to every motion. Alexa had taken over in ways I hadn't anticipated. The personality I had once nurtured in secret now felt integral to who I was, a layer of myself I couldn't simply remove. Then, reality intruded in the form of a sound, a soft knock at the door. My heart leapt into my throat. Diana wasn't supposed to be back for another day. My pulse raced, each beat echoing like a drum in my chest. I froze, listening. The knock came again, deliberate, cautious, yet impossible to ignore. Anxiety spiked, threatening to overwhelm me, yet curiosity pushed me to the edge. I tiptoed to the door, heels clicking softly against the floor. Every movement felt charged, deliberate, exposing my secret self while forcing me to maintain composure. I peered through the peephole, nothing. Just the quiet hallway. I exhaled, but the tension didn't leave. Alexa's presence pulsed through me, daring me to explore further, daring me to embrace the thrill, daring me to accept that nothing would ever be the same. I returned to the mirror, taking a long, trembling look at my reflection. My pulse was still racing, adrenaline sharp in my veins, yet I felt a strange serenity. Alexa was alive. She was here, and the rest of the world didn't know it yet. I practiced moving, shifting my stance, testing the boundaries of my new body. Every glance, every motion, every breath reinforced the reality of transformation, the impossible, exhilarating, terrifying reality that had begun overnight. The hours continued to blur. I moved through the apartment with caution, testing the limits of my voice, my movement, my newfound form. Alexa demanded attention, dominance, and recognition, and I obeyed instinctively. Each passing moment deepened the suspense. The constant fear of discovery mingled with the thrill of exploring my identity in ways I had never imagined. By evening, I was exhausted, trembling with a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety. The thrill of transformation had intertwined with the terror of exposure, creating a potent storm of emotion that left me breathless. I looked once more at the mirror, at the wide-eyed reflection staring back, half Alex, half Alexa, and fully unrecognizable as anyone I had known before. As I adjusted the hem of my dress, I heard the faintest sound of footsteps outside the door, slow, deliberate, impossible to ignore. My heart leapt, every nerve ending alive with panic and anticipation. Alexis surged within me, daring me to face the unknown. I froze, breath caught, unsure if it was Diana or someone else, stepping closer to discovering the secret I had only begun to explore. The sound of footsteps outside the door still echoed in my mind, every faint creak amplifying the fear coiling in my chest. I held my breath, heels digging into the floor as I tried to remain unseen, unheard. Alexa's presence pulsed through me, making each second feel elongated, every heartbeat thunderous in my ears. My reflection in the mirror now seemed almost alive, daring me to embrace the thrill, daring me to face the tension I had unleashed. I tiptoed across the room, careful to keep my movements smooth, controlled. Each step in the heels sent a shiver of awareness through my body. My hips swayed differently now, my posture instinctively feminine. The way my dress clung to my curves, The subtle shift of fabric with every motion, and the soft weight of my longer hair cascading around my shoulders were mesmerizing and distracting all at once. Every nerve ending buzzed, and yet the fear of being discovered kept me grounded in tense, silent anticipation. Hours passed, though time felt distorted. Alexa had taken over more fully. I was no longer just Alex experimenting. Each glance in the mirror reminded me that this persona wasn't temporary anymore. The contours of my face, the softness of my skin, even the way I carried myself reflected a reality I hadn't dared to imagine before. My voice, when I tested it, carried a melodic lilt I had never achieved without thought, an unintentional elegance that made me both proud and vulnerable. I decided to explore further. I rummaged through the wardrobe, selecting another outfit, this time a fitted blouse and skirt, the fabric soft and whisper-thin against my skin. The sensation of the clothing sliding over my body, accentuating curves that were previously flat or undefined, sent a thrill of exhilaration through me. The reflection staring back in the mirror was someone I had only glimpsed in secret fantasies, someone bold, alluring, and terrifyingly real. Internal conflict surged violently. I loved Alex, the version of myself I had always known. Yet Alexa, fully present and undeniable, demanded attention and acknowledgement. The thrill of inhabiting this persona, combined with the fear of being caught, created a storm in my chest. Could I truly return to my old life once Diana came home? Or was this a permanent, irreversible change that I had invited, almost desperately, with a single impulsive decision? I experimented with movement, walking across the room, practicing gestures and expressions I had only ever seen others perform. The way my arms floated slightly with elegance, the sway of my hips, the tilt of my head, all natural, instinctive, and thrilling. I tested my voice again, whispering softly to myself, hearing the higher tone carry confidence and subtle allure. Each movement, each sound, reinforced the reality. Alexa was no longer an experiment. She was me now. And yet, the suspense never left. Every creak of the floor, every faint noise outside, reminded me that I could be discovered at any moment. I imagined Diana walking through the door, her expression a mixture of shock and fascination. I felt exposed, every fiber of my body alert, aware, vulnerable. The thrill of transformation was inextricably linked with the terror of exposure, and it made every breath sharp, every heartbeat a drum of tension. I decided to test Alexa's presence further. I walked over to the living room, glancing nervously at the windows. The city outside was quiet, the streets almost empty, but every sound, a passing car, a distant dog bark, felt magnified. I imagined a neighbor peeking through the blinds, a casual glance that could shatter my carefully constructed secret. My pulse raced, adrenaline making my hands tremble as I adjusted my blouse, smoothed my skirt, and ran a hand through my hair. Alexa demanded perfection, demanded presence, and I obeyed, even as fear gnawed at me relentlessly. By late afternoon, I had begun experimenting with makeup more daringly. Eyeshadow, mascara, subtle blush, and lip gloss enhanced the feminine features that the injection had already begun to amplify. The mirror reflected someone undeniably female now, yet the eyes, still mine, carried the shock and thrill of the transformation. Every stroke of the brush made me feel more alive, more exposed, and more irreversibly changed. But with excitement came the shadows of doubt. I questioned everything: my identity, my relationship with Diana, my ability to return to my previous life. Was this a fleeting experiment, a temporary indulgence? Or had I crossed a line from which there was no return? The questions consumed me as much as the thrill did. I felt both exhilarated and trapped, like a tightrope walker balancing on the edge of two worlds, neither entirely safe nor entirely familiar. As evening approached, the suspense escalated further. I heard the softest thud from the hallway, a sound that shouldn't have been there. My heart leapt, every muscle tense, adrenaline surging. Someone was outside the door again, and this time, the steps were deliberate, purposeful. My body froze, yet Alexa urged me forward, whispering that I had to face the unknown, that fear and excitement were inseparable in this moment. I backed away slowly, mind racing, considering every possibility. The door remained closed, yet the sound of movement outside intensified, echoing in my chest like a warning drum. I gripped the edge of the dresser, knuckles white, as I tried to steady my breath. The apartment felt suddenly smaller, every corner a potential place of exposure. Alexa pulsed within me, daring me to maintain composure, daring me to survive this first true test of secrecy and vulnerability. Suddenly, a sharp knock rattled the door, this time accompanied by a voice I knew too well. "Alex, are you here?" My blood ran cold. The suspense reached a fever pitch. My body trembled, heart pounding, and Alexis surged to the surface, demanding courage. The person on the other side of the door wasn't just a threat to my secret. They were about to uncover everything. The voice at the door, Diana's voice, cut through the apartment like a knife. "Alex, are you here?" My heart slammed against my ribs, each beat hammering a frantic rhythm that made my chest ache. I froze, every instinct screaming to stay hidden, every nerve ending alive with fear. Yet, even in that moment of terror, Alexis surged through me, demanding attention, urging me to move with grace, to embody the persona I had nurtured in secret. I backed away slowly, feeling the soft fabric of my skirt brush against my legs, the delicate sway of my hips in motion. Each movement reminded me of my vulnerability. The exposure of my secret self made me simultaneously terrified and exhilarated. I glanced at the mirror, catching my own reflection. Alexa's wide, startled eyes stared back at me, alive and daring, shimmering with both fear and determination. Diana's footsteps drew closer, deliberate, curious. My mind raced through every possible explanation, every lie I could concoct. Yet the adrenaline made my body betray me. The soft click of my heels echoed against the floor, a subtle yet damning sound. I pressed my back against the wall, chest heaving, trying to steady my breathing. Alexa whispered in my mind, reminding me that panic would reveal everything. I had to remain poised, elegant, untouchable. I thought about the injection again, the tiny syringe that had set this chain of events in motion. I had known curiosity carried risks, but I hadn't imagined the immediacy of its consequences. My body had transformed overnight, curves forming, my face softening, my voice altered. Alexa was no longer a fantasy, a secret indulgence. She was real, alive, and dangerously present. And now, she faced the first real test, Diana standing just outside the door, seconds away from discovering the truth. Desperation pushed me into action. I moved quietly to the dresser, my fingers trembling as I selected a lightweight cardigan and draped it over my shoulders. It was a flimsy shield, an attempt to conceal the more feminine contours that had emerged overnight. I adjusted my hair, tugging it back in a loose, casual style, and practiced speaking in Alex's normal tone, though my voice still carried a subtle lilt that betrayed Alexa's presence. The knock came again, sharper this time. "Alex?" I thought I heard something. Panic surged through me, making my hands shake violently. I clenched them into fists, willing my body to obey, to move with composure. Every muscle was tense, every nerve alert. The thrill of transformation had always been intoxicating, but now it was laced with raw fear. Fear of exposure, fear of judgment, fear of losing control over the secret I had only begun to explore. I crept toward the door, trying to appear calm, casual, as if nothing had changed. Each step was a struggle. The heels amplified my nerves, each click against the floor a countdown to potential disaster. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, reminding Alexa and myself that control was key. One wrong move, one slip, and everything could unravel in an instant. I cracked the door open slightly, peering through the small gap. Diana's eyes widened in surprise, scanning the room, her brow furrowed. "Alex? You're alone?" Her voice carried curiosity, but there was also something else, a subtle note of suspicion that made my stomach twist. I forced a casual smile, nodding. Yeah, just catching up on some work. My voice wavered slightly, the melodic lilt betraying Alexa's presence despite my efforts to sound normal. Diana didn't immediately respond. She lingered, peering into the apartment as if she sensed something was off. I could feel the tension crackling between us, the electric charge of secrecy pressing down like a physical weight. Alexa pulsed within me, daring me to embrace the thrill, daring me to maintain composure, daring me to survive this moment without revealing the truth. Finally, Diana's gaze shifted, and she stepped back slightly. All right, if you say so. Her voice carried a hint of doubt, a lingering curiosity that made every hair on my body stand on end. The door clicked softly as she retreated, leaving me trembling, heart racing, body buzzing with adrenaline. I closed the door slowly, exhaling in a long, shuddering breath. The immediate danger had passed for now, but the stakes had escalated dramatically. I sank to the floor, letting the weight of the night's events press down on me. Alexa's presence remained vivid, unyielding, impossibly real. Every movement, every glance in the mirror, every shift in posture reminded me that this was no longer a temporary experiment. My body had changed, my identity had shifted, and my secret was more dangerous than ever. I reached for my journal, desperate to capture my thoughts, to anchor myself in some semblance of reality. I wrote feverishly, detailing every sensation, every fear, every exhilaration that coursed through me. The words flowed like a lifeline, tethering me to both Alex and Alexa, two identities intertwined in a delicate, thrilling, terrifying balance. Even as I wrote, a small voice of doubt whispered in the back of my mind. Could I maintain this balance? Could I navigate the days ahead without being exposed? The fear was tangible, pressing down on my chest like a weight, yet beneath it was the undeniable thrill of exploration. Alexa demanded to be acknowledged, to be expressed fully, and I felt both trapped and alive in ways I had never imagined. As night fell, the apartment darkened, shadows stretching across the walls. I moved back to the mirror, studying my reflection carefully. Alexa's wide eyes stared back at me, alive with curiosity and defiance. My body, now fully transformed in subtle but undeniable ways, shimmered in the low light. Every curve, every contour, every delicate gesture was a reminder that nothing would ever be the same again. Just as I turned away from the mirror, a soft creak from the hallway made my blood run cold. Someone was moving outside my door again, slow, deliberate steps that seemed to echo in the silence. My heart leapt, and Alexis surged within me, a mixture of exhilaration and terror, daring me to face the unknown. This time, the intruder wasn't just curiosity, it was a threat, and I had no idea if I was ready to confront what awaited. The soft creak from the hallway had me frozen in place, every muscle taut with tension. My heart pounded like a drum, and I could feel Alexa's presence surging inside me, whispering courage and daring me to embrace the thrill, no matter the danger. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, suffocating, each shadow a potential witness to my secret. I pressed myself against the wall, careful not to make a sound. The heels clicked softly as I shifted, each movement deliberate, yet every nerve screamed that I could be discovered at any moment. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, and I saw Alexa fully, alive, alert, and daring. Her wide eyes, soft curves, and fluid movements reminded me that there was no turning back. I was no longer just Alex. I was now a fully realized Alexa, vulnerable yet intoxicatingly powerful. The footsteps outside slowed, deliberate, and my pulse spiked. I imagined Diana's eyes, curious and questioning, staring at me through the peephole. Panic mingled with exhilaration, a storm of conflicting emotions that made it hard to breathe. I wanted to run, to hide, to return to my old life, but Alexa's presence demanded action, demanded recognition, demanded that I embrace this moment fully. I tiptoed toward the bedroom, searching for something to distract or shield me. My hands trembled as I picked up a soft scarf and draped it around my shoulders, trying to conceal the curves that had grown overnight. The fabric felt like a thin barrier between exposure and secrecy, fragile but comforting. I adjusted my hair, smoothing the strands and testing my voice. "It's okay," I whispered to myself, the melodic lilt betraying Alexa's presence despite my effort to sound normal. Hours seemed to pass in a blur of tension and self-discovery. I practiced walking, my hips swaying instinctively, my posture perfecting itself without conscious thought. I experimented with gestures, expressions, the way my fingers floated when I reached for objects. Every motion reminded me that this body, this persona, was fully alive now. The thrill was intoxicating, but it came with a shadow, the constant fear of discovery. I moved to the living room, glancing at the windows. The city outside was quiet, yet every sound, a distant car, a bird, even the faintest whisper of wind, felt magnified. Someone could be watching, listening, ready to expose me. My pulse raced with each passing second. Alexa's presence pushed me to remain composed, elegant, untouchable. My reflection in the mirror, now a full embodiment of femininity, dared me to embrace it fully, even as fear gripped my chest. Then, a sudden knock at the door made my blood run cold. This time, it wasn't soft or tentative, it was sharp, deliberate, demanding attention. My hands shook as I approached the door, every step amplified by my heels. The thrill of the moment intertwined with raw terror, each second stretching endlessly. Alexis surged within me, whispering that I had to maintain composure, that panic would betray everything. I peeked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, yet the tension didn't ease. Someone had been here, but now vanished. My imagination ran wild. Was it Diana? A neighbor? Or someone else, curious, suspicious, dangerous? My mind raced through scenarios, each more terrifying than the last. The adrenaline coursing through me made my hands clammy, my breath shallow. To calm myself, I returned to the mirror. Alexa's wide, questioning eyes stared back. I adjusted my blouse, smoothed my skirt, and practiced smiling, gentle, innocent, composed. Each gesture was a rehearsal, a shield, a way to maintain control in a world that suddenly felt unpredictable and threatening. The thrill of crossdressing, once private and secret, now pulsed with urgency, danger, and exhilaration. Even as I practiced, my thoughts kept returning to the injection. One impulsive moment had changed everything. Overnight, my body, my identity, my life had shifted irreversibly. Alexa was no longer a secret indulgence. She was a reality I had to navigate, delicate and dangerous, thrilling and terrifying. The stakes had never been higher, and each second carried the potential for exposure. The tension escalated as night fell. Shadows stretched across the walls, dancing in the dim light of the apartment. I moved carefully, testing my balance, the sway of my hips, the subtle gestures of my hands. Each motion reinforced Alexa's presence, her strength, her vulnerability. I was no longer just Alex experimenting. I was a performer, a secret kept from the world, walking a tightrope between exhilaration and disaster. Then, the sound came, a soft, deliberate cough from the hallway, just outside my door. My heart leapt into my throat, every instinct screaming danger. The sound was too deliberate to ignore, too intentional to be accidental. I pressed my back against the wall, body tense, breath shallow. Alexis surged within me, urging me to stay poised, to maintain control, to survive the first real test of secrecy. The doorknob rattled gently, slowly, impossibly slow, as if the person outside was savoring the moment before discovery. My pulse raced, and Alexa's presence demanded courage. I swallowed hard, unsure if I could face whoever was on the other side, because this time, the intruder wasn't just curiosity. They were about to see everything, and nothing would ever be the same again. The rattling doorknob sent a jolt through me, my pulse spiking so violently I thought it might burst from my chest. Every muscle in my body tightened instinctively. Alexis surged forward, her presence undeniable, as if urging me to face the danger head-on while maintaining the poise I had cultivated. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, curves, soft features, and long hair shimmering in the dim light, but the wide, fearful eyes staring back reminded me how vulnerable I truly was. I backed away slowly, heels clicking softly against the floor, the sound sharp in the tense silence. My mind raced through every possible explanation, every lie I could weave, but the fear of being caught pressed on me like a physical weight. The thrill of transformation, once a private indulgence, was now inseparable from sheer terror. Every step, every breath, every flick of hair felt loaded with consequence. The door rattled again, a soft but deliberate movement. The air around me felt electric, charged with suspense. I pressed my back to the wall, glancing at the mirror one more time. Alexa's gaze, wide and daring, locked with mine. She was more than a persona now. She was fully alive within me, demanding recognition, urging me to stay composed even as the threat outside intensified. I thought about Diana. She had been the first person to notice subtle changes, the first to suspect something amiss, yet her presence remained uncertain. Was it her outside the door this time? Or someone else, someone who could unravel everything I had built? My fingers trembled as I clutched the edge of the dresser, seeking stability in a world that had grown suddenly chaotic. I moved cautiously toward the hallway, every step measured, controlled. My skirt swayed softly with each motion, heels clicking in rhythm with my heartbeat. The apartment seemed impossibly small, every shadow a potential witness to my secret. Alexa urged me forward, whispering that fear could not dominate, that I had to maintain composure, elegance, and control no matter what. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed, the line between reality and imagination blurring. Every creak, every distant sound, every subtle vibration from the walls heightened my awareness. My body had changed completely. The curves, the softness, the fluid movements were no longer experimental. They were intrinsic. Alexa moved with a confidence I had never felt as Alex, yet vulnerability lingered, a constant reminder that one misstep could expose everything. I paused by the mirror, studying the transformation in detail. Makeup perfectly accentuated my features, soft blush highlighted the contours of my cheeks, eyes sparkled with life, and lips glistened subtly. My reflection was both exhilarating and terrifying, a symbol of who I had become, yet a warning of the fragility of my secret. Alexa's presence pulsed through me, merging fear, excitement, and newfound power in a way that left me breathless. A sudden thud from the hallway made my body jerk. Someone was moving outside again, deliberate and slow, each step echoing through the tense silence. My heart hammered violently, adrenaline coursing through every vein. I gripped the edge of the dresser, knuckles white, reminding myself to breathe, to remain poised. Every instinct screamed to hide, to vanish, yet Alexa demanded action, demanded courage, demanded presence. I tiptoed closer to the door, trying to appear casual even as panic threatened to overwhelm me. Each movement was a balancing act, maintaining feminine grace while controlling the sheer terror inside. My voice, when I practiced quietly, carried a soft, melodic lilt that betrayed Alexa's presence despite my best efforts to sound normal. The thrill of being caught was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. The shadows in the hallway seemed to stretch and twist, each one a potential intruder. I imagined Diana's expression if she opened the door: shock, curiosity, perhaps even disbelief. Could I maintain the balance long enough to keep my secret? Or had the injection and my transformation gone too far, leaving me irreversibly vulnerable? Each passing second stretched endlessly, time itself seeming to slow in anticipation of the inevitable confrontation. Then a sudden knock, sharp, deliberate, final. My knees threatened to buckle, but Alexa's presence steadied me. She demanded grace, elegance, and composure even as the danger pressed closer. I inched toward the door, body tense, heart hammering, every nerve alive with suspense. The sound of the knock lingered in the air, echoing like a drumbeat counting down to exposure, counting down to a moment that could change everything. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. There was no hesitation this time, no uncertainty, just deliberate presence, the unmistakable feeling that the intruder knew I was inside. My pulse raced, adrenaline surged, and Alexis surged within me, merging fear, thrill, and determination. The stakes had never been higher, the suspense never more suffocating, and the thrill of transformation was now inseparable from the terror of discovery. Before I could react, the doorknob slowly began to turn, and I realized with a jolt that the person outside was about to see everything. Alex and Alexa, fear and thrill, vulnerability and transformation, all exposed in one impossible moment. My breath caught, and time seemed to freeze. What would happen next? The doorknob rattled slowly, deliberately, and my pulse spiked so violently it felt like it might shatter my ribs. My hands trembled, fingers clutching the edge of the dresser for balance. Alexis surged inside me, alive and commanding, urging me to move with poise, to face the moment, even as fear threatened to swallow me whole. The soft sway of my skirt, the subtle curve of my hips, the delicate tremor in my voice, every detail of my transformation was suddenly exposed in my mind before anyone even entered. The door opened just a crack, and I froze. A shadow filled the small gap, tall and deliberate. I could hear the soft intake of breath, and my stomach knotted. Whoever it was had seen or at least suspected something was different. Every instinct screamed that I should retreat, hide, deny, yet Alexa's presence demanded confrontation. She was alive, vibrant, unignorable. I had to let her guide me. A voice called softly from the other side. "Alex, is that you?" The words were hesitant, tentative, but carried a weight that made my heart pound violently. It was Diana. My mind raced through explanations, lies, excuses, but none felt sufficient. My body felt like it had been transformed overnight into something both beautiful and fragile, and now it was seconds away from being truly exposed. I forced myself to take a deep breath, smoothing my skirt, adjusting my blouse, attempting the composure Alexa demanded. "Yeah, it's me," I said, my voice carrying a melodic lilt I couldn't fully suppress. Even my attempt at normalcy betrayed the changes, the curves, the softness that had emerged. My reflection in the nearby mirror caught my eye, and I saw Alexa fully realized, alive, defiant, trembling, and beautiful all at once. Diana pushed the door open slightly, stepping in, eyes scanning the apartment. Her gaze fell on me, lingering. The subtle curve of my hips, the soft tilt of my shoulders, the way I shifted my weight, everything screamed difference. She blinked once, twice, then a curious smile tugged at her lips. "Alex, you look different." The words sent a jolt through me. Different. Not wrong, not odd, but undeniably changed. Panic surged, but Alexa's presence steadied me. I lifted my chin, trying to project confidence. "Yes, something happened," I said, voice trembling slightly. I needed a change." My heart raced as I watched Diana process the sight of me. Alex fully transformed, Alexa fully alive. Every breath felt loaded with suspense, every second stretched impossibly long. Diana stepped closer, her eyes narrowing slightly. "A change like what?" There was curiosity, caution, and maybe suspicion mixed in her tone. I swallowed hard, realizing that any wrong word, any misstep, could unravel the secret I had been nurturing. Alexa whispered urgently in my mind, "Poise, grace, honesty, yet careful. Let her see some truth, but not everything." I took a tentative step forward, letting my skirt sway slightly, heels clicking softly against the floor. I've been experimenting," I admitted. "Trying something new. I didn't mean for it to be like this overnight." My voice carried a tremor, but Alexa's presence gave it a subtle elegance, a grace that I never had before. Diana tilted her head, studying me carefully. The tension in the room was palpable, every heartbeat echoing in my ears. Then, she leaned slightly closer, eyes widening as she noticed the faint blush, the subtle softness of my features, the full curve of my lips. "Alex, are you a girl?" The words were almost a whisper, yet they carried a gravity that made the world seem to tilt. I froze, every instinct screaming for denial, retreat, escape. But Alexis surged fully, taking control. "Yes," I whispered, voice barely above a breath. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did." The admission felt like both liberation and doom. My heart raced, every muscle taut, every nerve alive with fear and exhilaration. Diana's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and disbelief, curiosity and awe. She stepped back slightly, processing the revelation. The room felt impossibly small, charged with tension. Every shadow seemed to stretch closer, every sound magnified. Alexa pulsed within me, alive, proud, vulnerable, all at once. Suddenly, another sound cut through the tension, a soft knock at the apartment door, deliberate, insistent. Diana and I both froze, eyes locking. The intruder's presence was unmistakable, a new threat, a potential disaster. Alexis surged with fear and excitement, urging me to act, to maintain composure, to face the unknown with poise. I glanced at Diana, breathless, feeling the weight of exposure pressing down. She reached for my hand, tentative yet grounding, and whispered, "Who's there?" The question hung in the air, fraught with suspense. I swallowed hard, the adrenaline surging, heart racing, realizing that the next moment could change everything. Before either of us could react, the door handle slowly began to turn, the soft click of the lock echoing through the apartment. Time seemed to freeze as Alexis surged fully, poised, terrified, and ready. Whoever was outside was about to see everything. Alex, Alexa, fear, transformation, and secret all in one impossible moment. My pulse slammed in my ears, and I realized there was no turning back. The door creaked open, slowly, the sound dragging out like a warning. My heart slammed in my chest as I instinctively stepped forward, heels clicking softly on the floor. Alexis surged within me, sharp and alive, guiding every movement, every breath, every subtle tilt of my head. I could feel the weight of exposure pressing down, threatening to collapse the delicate balance I had spent days constructing. A shadow appeared in the doorway, tall and imposing. My stomach twisted into knots, and my hands clutched the edge of the dresser for support. It wasn't Diana. Thankfully, she was standing beside me, her wide eyes reflecting equal parts shock and curiosity. The figure paused, silhouette sharp against the dim light of the hallway. Whoever it was, they now had a full view of me, Alexa fully realized, poised and vulnerable. The first words came hesitantly, a whisper carried on tension-thick air. "Alex, what happened?" The voice belonged to someone I knew, Mark, my neighbor. He had a tendency to notice things, to pry, to push boundaries. My mind raced. There was no lying, no smooth diversion that could protect me now. Alexis surged, elegant, poised, desperate to hold control in the face of discovery. I changed," I said, voice trembling but carrying an elegance I didn't know I had. It wasn't planned, but it happened. My gaze shifted between Diana and Mark, trying to gauge their reactions. Every heartbeat sounded deafening, every second stretching impossibly long. Alexa pulsed through me, steadying my nerves, forcing poise, forcing control even as panic threatened to dominate. Mark blinked slowly, clearly trying to process the sight before him. You're a girl?" His words stumbled out, disbelief etched into every syllable. I nodded, voice barely a whisper. "Yes, it's me, Alex, but Alexa now." My breath caught, the admission both liberating and terrifying. Diana reached for my hand again, grounding me, offering silent reassurance that I wasn't entirely alone. Mark took a cautious step forward, curiosity mingled with caution. But how? His question hung in the air, loaded with suspense. I swallowed hard, recalling the injection, the sudden shift, the irreversible transformation. I I took something, experimented, and it changed everything overnight. I admitted. Every word felt like a dagger, a confession, and a challenge all at once. The room pulsed with tension, every eye on me, every muscle tense. Alexa's presence surged fully, demanding composure even as my heart raced. I adjusted my skirt, smoothed my hair, and stood as tall as possible, heels grounding me in a reality that was now fragile and dangerous. Every breath I took carried fear, excitement, and exhilaration in equal measure. Mark hesitated, eyes narrowing. "But you look perfect." The words were almost accusatory, laced with disbelief. I felt a flush rise in my cheeks, a mixture of embarrassment and pride. Alexis surged again, urging confidence, urging me to embrace the transformation even in the face of scrutiny. "It's who I am now," I whispered. "Alex is gone, at least for now." Alexa." Diana stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "Alex or Alexa, you need to be honest. How permanent is this?" Her gaze searched mine, trying to reconcile the vibrant, feminine figure before her with the Alex she had known. My pulse spiked. The truth was both exhilarating and terrifying. Alexa was no longer temporary. She was a reality I had to live with, yet the future remained uncertain. Mark leaned in, curiosity edged with suspicion. "So this is real? You're like this permanently?" The weight of his question pressed down, every syllable a potential threat, a chance to unravel everything. I swallowed, nodding slightly, voice soft but determined. "Yes, I don't know exactly what's ahead, but this is who I am now." The tension in the room was suffocating. Shadows danced along the walls, stretching and twisting, each movement echoing the anxiety and anticipation in my chest. Alexa pulsed within me, alive, demanding poise, elegance, and control. My hands trembled, but my posture remained straight, my voice steady despite the storm of fear and exhilaration coursing through me. Then a sudden noise, a soft crash from the kitchen, made us all jump. My heart leapt into my throat. Mark froze, eyes wide, while Diana instinctively stepped behind me. I realized immediately that the moment of absolute exposure was not yet over. The apartment, once my sanctuary, had become a stage, every shadow, sound, and breath magnified. Alexa surged, whispering caution and daring simultaneously. I moved toward the sound, curiosity battling fear. Each step was measured, deliberate, maintaining feminine grace while bracing for confrontation. The soft sway of my skirt, the subtle click of my heels, every motion screamed both vulnerability and confidence. In the kitchen, I found nothing, just the empty countertop and the faint sound of the apartment settling. Relief washed over me briefly, only to be replaced by the awareness that our secret, my transformation, was now known, exposed, observed, and potentially judged. Diana's eyes met mine, wide and searching, while Mark's expression remained a mix of curiosity and disbelief. As we processed the revelation, a soft, deliberate knock echoed from the front door again, this time heavier, more insistent. Whoever was outside now knew someone was in the apartment, and the danger of complete exposure loomed larger than ever. Alexis surged fully, poised, terrified, and ready. But would we survive what was coming next, or would everything unravel in an instant? The knock at the door reverberated like a drum in the apartment, echoing through my chest with a chilling rhythm. Every nerve in my body screamed that danger was close. Alexis surged fully, her presence a mixture of elegance, fear, and daring courage, urging me to maintain composure. My heels clicked softly on the floor as I took a deliberate step back, trying to appear calm, poised, even though my heart was hammering like a drum. Diana glanced at me, her eyes wide, searching, almost pleading. I could see the worry in her expression, the unspoken question of whether I had control over this new reality, or if it had already begun controlling me. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of both identities, Alex and Alexa, pressing down. I'll handle it," I whispered, trying to sound steady, to project authority I didn't fully feel. Mark shifted slightly, uneasily, his gaze flicking toward the door. "Do you think it's safe to answer that?" His words were hesitant, cautious, but every syllable pressed on the suspense, reminding me that exposure was imminent. I took a deep breath, smoothing my skirt, adjusting my hair, letting Alexa's presence infuse me with poise. "It's okay," I said softly, voice melodic yet firm. "I've got this." The doorknob rattled again, deliberate and slow, and the shadow of a figure appeared in the small gap beneath the door. My pulse spiked, adrenaline flooding every vein. Alexa urged confidence, demanded elegance, but the fear was undeniable. Every second stretched, the room charged with tension. Diana gripped my hand, grounding me, offering silent reassurance as we all faced the unknown together. I moved toward the door, soft steps, heels clicking in rhythm with my heartbeat. The figure outside paused, a deliberate shadow in the dim light. Whoever it was, they knew something unusual was happening inside. Alexis surged fully, grace, vulnerability, and strength entwined, as I reached for the doorknob. "Who is it?" I called softly, trying to keep my voice calm, melodious. My hands trembled slightly, the weight of potential exposure pressing down like a physical force. The silence stretched unbearably long before the figure spoke, voice low and familiar. "Alex, or should I say Alexa?" My breath caught, the words slicing through the tension like a knife. The figure, my older brother, Jason, had known something was off before anyone else. My heart raced violently, the thrill of secrecy and the terror of exposure colliding. Alexis surged fully, demanding composure, elegance, even as panic clawed at my chest. Jason's tone was deliberate, almost teasing, but edged with concern. I had a feeling, and now I see it for myself. "You've changed." His gaze swept over me, taking in every curve, every detail, every subtle nuance of my transformation. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet exhilaratingly alive, a fusion of fear and thrill. Diana stepped closer, whispering urgently, "What's going to happen now?" Her hand trembled slightly in mine, a grounding presence amidst the chaos. I glanced at her, swallowing hard. I don't know," I admitted, voice barely above a whisper, but Alexa infused it with strength and calm. "But we have to stay composed." Jason took another step inside, careful, deliberate, as though testing the boundaries of this new reality. My pulse hammered in my ears, adrenaline surging as I watched him assess every detail. Alexa pulsed within me, guiding posture, expression, even the subtle tilt of my head, ensuring that elegance remained intact even in fear. Suddenly, the soft click of the apartment lock echoed. Another figure, unknown, unexpected, had entered. The room felt impossibly small, shadows stretching, tension thick enough to choke on. My heart leapt into my throat as Alexis surged with equal parts fear and daring. Whoever it was now had the power to expose everything, and the stakes had never been higher. I backed toward the center of the living room, heels clicking softly, skirt swaying. Diana's grip on my hand tightened, grounding me as I attempted to maintain control. Mark's eyes widened in disbelief, scanning every inch of the apartment, every subtle indication of transformation. Alexis surged again, urging composure, elegance, defiance, and courage. Then, the new figure spoke, voice smooth, deliberate, yet sharp with authority. "Well, this is unexpected." The words hung in the air like a guillotine poised to fall. My pulse spiked violently, adrenaline flooding every nerve. Alexis surged fully, poise unshaken even as fear threatened to dominate. Every second stretched endlessly. The room felt impossibly small, charged with suspense, each breath, each heartbeat echoing. Shadows twisted and danced across the walls. My transformation, my secret, my dual identity, Alex and Alexa, was now fully exposed, under scrutiny, vulnerable. The thrill of discovery, fear of judgment, and exhilaration of transformation collided into a dizzying, intoxicating storm. Before I could react, the new figures stepped closer, a subtle smirk on their lips. "I think it's time we talked about your little experiment." My breath caught, pulse racing. Alexis surged fully, poised, trembling, and alive. But now, the revelation was only beginning. What would they do? How much would they discover? And could I survive the next few moments without losing everything? The figure's deliberate steps echoed through the apartment, each one sending shivers down my spine. Alexis surged fully, guiding my posture, every tilt of my head, every subtle sway of my skirt, poise even amidst terror. My pulse hammered in my ears, adrenaline roaring as the intruder closed the distance. Diana and Mark stayed frozen, watching me, their eyes wide, processing the revelation of my transformation. Jason stopped a few feet away, folding his arms, studying me with that unnerving mix of disbelief and fascination that only he could master. "I always suspected," he said finally, voice calm measured. "But I didn't think this." His eyes roamed over the curves, the delicate tilt of my shoulders, the subtle softness of my face. The word "this" hung in the air, heavy with judgment and awe. I swallowed hard, Alexis surging inside me, forcing calm, elegance, and poise. My heels clicked softly as I adjusted my stance, smoothing the folds of my skirt. "It happened overnight," I whispered, voice melodic, trembling slightly despite Alexa's influence. "I didn't expect it, but it's real now." My breath caught, the weight of exposure pressing down like a physical force. Diana stepped closer, her voice soft, tinged with concern. "Alex or Alexa, how are you feeling? Is this permanent?" The question cut deep, an unspoken acknowledgement of the reality I faced. I glanced at her, swallowing hard. I don't know," I admitted, letting Alexa's presence lend grace to my trembling voice. "But I feel like myself, in a way I never did before." Mark shifted uneasily, his eyes darting between Jason and me. "This is unbelievable," he muttered, clearly at a loss for words. The tension in the room thickened, every shadow a potential threat, every heartbeat amplified in suspense. Alexis surged fully, commanding my composure, even as fear gnawed at my chest. Jason's expression softened slightly, a hint of concern threading through his curiosity. "You realize how exposed you are, don't you?" His words were calm, but the implication was clear. The secret I had nurtured so carefully was now entirely visible. Every instinct screamed panic, yet Alexa guided me forward, graceful, poised, daring, alive. I took a slow, deliberate step toward Jason, skirt swaying, heels clicking. "I know," I said, voice soft but steady. "And I accept it. I'm not the same Alex anymore. I'm Alexa now. And I need to live that, even if it's scary." My words hung in the air, charged with vulnerability and courage. Jason nodded slowly, absorbing my confession. "I get it more than you realize," he murmured. But then, a subtle smirk twisted his lips, a warning hiding behind the faint amusement. "Still, there are consequences. People are going to notice. You can't hide this forever." Alexa surged, tension coiling inside me like a spring ready to snap. My pulse spiked, every muscle taut, but I maintained poise, letting grace guide my trembling form. "I'm ready," I whispered, voice barely audible. "I'll face it whatever comes." My heels clicked softly as I shifted slightly, skirt swaying, hair catching the dim light, a mixture of elegance and fear radiating from me. Suddenly, the apartment door rattled again, more violently this time. The sound made everyone jump. Diana's eyes widened in alarm, Mark stepped back instinctively, and Jason's smirk faltered into a subtle frown. My heart leapt into my throat. Alexis surged fully, urging me to stay poised, yet every instinct screamed that exposure was imminent. I glanced at Diana, gripping her hand tightly. "Stay calm," I whispered, voice trembling slightly. "Whatever happens, we handle it together." The words felt both comforting and terrifying, a fragile shield against a storm of suspense about to break. The doorknob turned slowly, deliberately, a metallic click that sent shivers down my spine. I froze, every sense alert, Alexa's presence guiding my elegance even as fear threatened to overwhelm. The door creaked open just a sliver, and a shadow stretched across the threshold. Before I could react, a familiar voice whispered from the doorway, tinged with mischief and menace. Well, what do we have here? My heart slammed violently. Alexis surged fully, trembling with both terror and excitement. Whoever had arrived now held the power to unravel everything. My secret, my identity, my carefully constructed transformation. The apartment seemed impossibly small, shadows thick with suspense, and I realized there was no turning back. The shadow in the doorway shifted, and a cold, teasing laugh filled the apartment. My heart pounded violently, adrenaline roaring through every vein. Alexis surged fully, guiding my posture, my breath, the delicate tilt of my head, every subtle sway of my skirt. Every step, every motion was deliberate, grace under pressure, poise under threat. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar, dangerous smile. My pulse raced. It was Lena, Diana's cousin, the one I had always feared might uncover my secret. She paused, scanning the room, her eyes lingering on me, then on Diana and Mark. Well, this is interesting, she said, voice smooth, laced with amusement and sharp curiosity. I felt the weight of exposure press down like a physical force. My heart hammered in my chest as Alexa surged, urging me to maintain control, elegance, and composure. Every instinct screamed panic, yet the thrill of being seen, of living fully as Alexa, surged through me. I can explain, I whispered, voice trembling but melodic, skirts swaying gently with each step. Diana's grip on my hand tightened, her eyes searching mine. Alexa, what do we do? She asked softly, her voice a mixture of worry and trust. I swallowed hard, pulse racing, and took a deep breath. We stay calm, I murmured, letting Alexa's presence guide my words, my stance, my every movement. We face this together. Lena's eyes narrowed, a subtle smirk curling her lips. Face what exactly? That Alex has become Alexa overnight. Her words hung in the air, sharp and teasing, yet edged with a dangerous curiosity. My pulse spiked. Alexis surged fully, demanding poise and elegance even as my hands trembled slightly. Mark shifted uneasily, whispering, This is getting out of hand. But his words only fueled the tension, each syllable a reminder that the secret I had guarded so carefully was now exposed, observed, and vulnerable to judgment. I adjusted my hair, smoothed my skirt, and took a step forward. Yes, Alexa is real, I said, voice steady despite the tremor beneath. This is who I am now. I can't go back to being Alex. Not fully. And I'm ready to face whatever comes. Alexa pulsed within me, elegant, alive, daring, trembling, all at once. Diana stepped closer, her expression soft but firm. Alexa, we'll handle this. But be honest, how much of this is permanent? Her question cut deep, a mirror to my own fears. I glanced at her, swallowing hard. I don't know for sure, I admitted, letting Alexa lend grace and elegance to my voice. But I feel more like myself than I ever did before. Lena circled slowly, her gaze sharp, measuring every nuance of my transformation. You realize how exposed you are, right? She said, tone playful but edged with danger. Anyone could find out. People are going to talk. Are you ready for that? My pulse spiked, adrenaline surging, yet Alexis surged fully, commanding poise and confidence. I am, I whispered, skirts swaying, heels clicking softly, voice melodic but trembling. I can't hide anymore. I won't. The words felt liberating and terrifying all at once, a declaration of identity and courage under fire. Suddenly, a soft, Deliberate knock echoed from the front door. My heart leapt. Another figure, unknown, unpredictable, stood outside, waiting. Shadows stretched across the apartment, thick with suspense, and I realized that the exposure was far from over. Every breath, every heartbeat, carried the weight of uncertainty and risk. Alexa surged, guiding my movements, my posture, my gaze. I moved toward the door, each step deliberate, skirt swaying, heels clicking softly. Diana and Mark flanked me, their presence grounding yet reminding me of the stakes. The knock came again, louder this time, more insistent. I paused, hand on the doorknob, heart racing, pulse hammering. "Who is it?" I called, voice steady despite the storm inside me. Silence answered, just the subtle creak of the apartment settling. Then a voice, familiar yet terrifying. "I think it's time you show me all of it." My hand trembled on the doorknob, Alexa fully alive within me, poised, elegant and vulnerable. Whoever stood outside now held the power to expose everything, my secret, my identity, my life as Alex and Alexa. The apartment seemed impossibly small, shadows thick with suspense, and I realized there was no turning back. Would I survive this moment? Or would everything unravel in an instant? The apartment felt suffocating, every shadow too sharp, every silence too loud. My hand lingered on the doorknob, trembling but steady in appearance, Alexa's presence keeping me poised. Diana stood slightly behind me, eyes wide with fear and loyalty. Mark hovered near the window, restless, whispering under his breath. Lena leaned against the wall, arms crossed, smirking, enjoying the unfolding chaos. The voice outside repeated, firmer now. "Alexa, open the door." The sound of my name, Alexa, not Alex, sent a shiver racing down my spine. Whoever it was knew enough to strip me of my fragile layers of secrecy. My throat tightened, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. Diana touched my arm. "Don't," she whispered. "We don't know who it is." But a strange calm washed over me, a mixture of fear and inevitability. "If I don't," I whispered back, "they'll just keep knocking. They already know." The knocking grew louder. Each rap against the wood reverberated in my chest, echoing like a countdown. Alexa's voice inside me was steady, commanding, urging me to face it with dignity, no matter the cost. I twisted the knob slowly, heart pounding, and pulled the door open. The hallway light spilled in, framing the figure outside. It was my older brother, Daniel. My knees nearly buckled. He stood there, gaze locked on me, eyes wide not with surprise, but with something more complicated, recognition, confusion, maybe even betrayal. He didn't look at Diana, or Mark, or Alina. His gaze was fixed entirely on me. "Alexa, I knew something was going on," he said quietly, his voice low but sharp. "But I didn't think it was this." My mouth opened, but no sound came. Diana reached for my hand, squeezing tight, grounding me. Lena's smirk faltered slightly, sensing the danger. Mark stepped back, whispering, "Oh no." Daniel stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The click of the lock was deafening. "So, this is who you really are?" he asked, scanning me, my dress, my makeup, my posture. His words weren't cruel, but they carried weight, judgment, and a demand for answers. I swallowed, fighting back tears. "Yes, this is me." Alexa's voice steadied my tone, but my heart was breaking. "I didn't want you to find out like this." He exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "Do you have any idea what this means? For you? For us?" His eyes flicked to Diana, then back to me. "You're living a lie. Or maybe you're living the truth. I don't even know anymore." The room pulsed with tension, every person frozen, every breath loud. Diana stood firm beside me, whispering, "You don't owe anyone an apology for being yourself." Daniel's gaze softened, just slightly. "Then tell me, Alex, no, Alexa, what do you want? Who do you want to be?" His question cut deeper than any accusation. I trembled, skirts brushing against my legs, makeup heavy yet empowering. I want to live. As me. As Alexa. Even if it costs everything. The silence after my words felt endless. The clock ticked. My heart thundered. Everyone's eyes were on Daniel, waiting for his reaction. Finally, he stepped closer, lowering his voice. Then you'd better be ready. Because once the world sees you, there's no going back. His words weren't a threat, they were a warning. My pulse spiked, adrenaline flooding me. He was right. The secret was slipping away. My life was about to change forever. Lena leaned forward, smirking again. So, what happens now? The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswerable. My knees felt weak, but Alexa stood tall, chin lifted, refusing to collapse under the weight of judgment. Diana's hand anchored me, her presence reminding me I wasn't alone. Then Daniel added, voice firm, because Mom and Dad are coming over tomorrow, and they'll see you like this. The words crashed through me like lightning. Tomorrow. No more hiding. No more shadows. My family, the ones I had feared exposing most, would see Alexa. Panic flared, but so did something else, an unexpected spark of defiance. Alexa whispered fiercely inside me, we can do this. You can face them. This is your truth. I inhaled sharply, exhaling through trembling lips. The apartment seemed to shrink, everyone's faces blurring into a storm of fear, judgment, and possibility. Would my parents accept Alexa? Would they reject me forever? Or would this be the moment everything, my identity, my relationships, my future, shattered beyond repair? As the night closed in, one truth echoed louder than my heartbeat. There was no turning back. Tomorrow, everything would change.